Florida State's over-under win total for 2025 is set at 7.5 wins. How do we feel about that? Now, we'll give you our official prediction for this in the summertime. So I'm not going to give you my lock on over 10 or over 7.5 wins, under 7.5 wins, but make sure you're locked in here for when that does happen. Florida State fans, if you want more Florida State content, the best way to let us know that is by hitting subscribe on this video. We see who subscribes to what video, so if Florida State fans are dialed in, we make sure that we supply whatever you're demanding. We appreciate you in advance for being locked in. So let's get to this. What do we make of Florida State is, I think, the big question here whenever you're talking about win total for anyone. But Florida State last year wins 2 games, and the year before they win the ACC and go undefeated in the regular season. Going into last year, the question for me wasn't so much do they have the talent to go, do what they did in 2023. The question was, are they going to be able to maintain at the important positions? Obviously, with DJU, hand up, we personally on this show swung and missed when it came to our assessment of how that would work. But I think the tricky part with evaluating Florida State is there has been no consistency from each of the last 2 years. That's why this 7.5 number is absolutely perfect. Like, Florida State right now is like ordering double chicken at Chipotle, dude. I have no idea what I'm going to get week to week, visit to visit. I might go to one Chipotle on the corner and I'll get absolutely blessed with 2 scoops. Sometimes you get people give you like the extra half a scoop, and you go home just with like almost leftover Chipotle. It's a glorious thing. You go to the other Chipotle down the street, it's like half a scoop, dude. It's like, did you hear me ask for double chicken? So that's what Florida State has been. 1 week, or 1 year, I suppose, 1 season, they look phenomenal. Culture is solid. Mike Norvell is renewing his contract with Florida State in the midst of the Alabama job becoming open from Saban retiring. And then the following season, we're all like, are we sure Norvell's the right guy in Tallahassee? A little bit extreme, but when you win 2 games, questions like that arise. So when you talk about what Florida State is in 2025, my question for them in terms of surpassing that win total is, can they flush what last year was? That's where it starts. Because the talent, I think, even a season ago, was better than 2 wins. We all saw that. What concerned me, though, the most about last year's Florida State team is we're getting the brakes beat off of us by Boston College. And I see guys doing palms up. I see guys walking off the field. I see horrific body language. And at that point, you're like, oh, boy, this is not good. Situations like that, issues like that, are very difficult to nip in the bud during the season. You do that during winter conditioning. You do that during spring practice. At the worst case, fall camp. But we're playing actual meaningful football games that count, and we got bad body language. We got guys giving up on plays. That's hard to eliminate during the season. So now you fast forward the tape a full year. You've had a full year to try to flush that culture. You got a new OC in Gus Malzahn, got a new DC in Tony White. How effective are you with this new roster personnel as well? Thomas Castellanos included, as well as Deuce Robinson. The list goes on with the portal haul for the Noles. How effective were you and are you in resetting that culture back closer to what it was in 2023? Because that's what they were awesome at, quite frankly. You had veteran leadership in a Jordan Travis, Jared Verse, guys that were able to set the temperature at a certain spot in Tallahassee to say, no, this is how we do things. If you want to be a part of it, you got to get with us. And last year, there was no real, from what I could gather, culture standard set, at least from what we saw on the field. And I think the 2-10 season kind of reflects that. Now, from a more practical sense, we talk about Thomas Castellanos. My question isn't so much can he, my question is can Florida State? Because I think for Thomas Castellanos, if he's your quarterback, you are committing to playing a certain style of football, and I think you tried to do that last year with DJU. Like DJU, when he came in, he wasn't supposed to be the dude that's going to throw around 30 times a game or anything like that. It was supposed to be run the football, play good defense, let DJU pick and choose his spots. When you have an effective day on the ground and the safeties creep up, hit the throws downfield. It was very evident watching that game in Ireland against Georgia Tech. Florida State cannot run the football. Florida State cannot stop the run. So when you have no line of scrimmage play, it's very difficult to ask your quarterback to do something that he didn't originally sign up to do. Same thing with Thomas Castellanos this upcoming season. Do you have the pieces in place around him to support the style of ball you want to play under Gus Malzahn? So defense, got to pick it up. I mean, running back room, obviously have to pick it up. Offensive line, have to get a good push. Now, Thomas Castellanos can't turn the football over, and he has to be able to check his boxes in terms of what he does on the ground, what he does making the correct throws and correct decisions. But you can't tell me you want to cook a steak dinner when all you got is fruit roll-ups and cranberry juice in the fridge. But that can't be the way that you live your life. So do you have the proper ingredients around Thomas Castellanos to where you can actually evaluate him as a quarterback? I like what they have from a skill player perspective. I like Squirrel White. I like Deuce Robinson. Curious to see what else they add as this portal cycle finishes up here in the spring, but I like that for the most part. It does come down to, do you have enough up front to be able to run the football how Gus Malzahn wants to run the football? They'll go fast. I don't think it'll be super, complex with how they do things pre-snap, but are you able to support Thomas Castellanos? That's my big question. And then, of course, from that, we'll see what Thomas Castellanos says. Now, defensively, it's a brand new approach from what it was last year. Tony White comes in. The reports out of spring practice are they love the way he interacts with players. They think that he's someone that players can buy into more easily, speaks the language a little bit more, is more of a player's coach in that sense. The feeling, though, from last season is it was a lot more, okay, let's just be more conservative, if you will. Like, we're going to keep it in front of us, and we might, surrender a short play, but we're not going to give up the big chunk plays. That was the thought process, schematically. Clearly, that didn't happen. So, with Tony White, it's almost an inverse thought process. They're going to risk it for the biscuit a little bit. They'll be aggressive. They'll try to create negative plays, force turnovers, all those things. So if you're a Florida State fan, I think you kind of feel like, great, we tried the other way. That clearly didn't work. Let's go with Tony White and his approach when it comes to being more aggressive. Awesome. Are you able to, in this defense, be consistent enough with creating those negative plays? Because Florida State, they're going to get got. But to quote the great Marshawn Lynch, are they going to get theirs more than they get got, though? That's the big question here. So when you talk about the win total, to me, the schedule is interesting how it shakes out. Take a look at this. Early on, you got Bama. Got a couple of gimmies there, I think, in the month of September outside of Alabama. Pitt could be intriguing. I think that the swing games, though, to me, for Florida State on the schedule, fall in your final couple of games here. Like Virginia Tech and NC State, to me, will decide if they surpass this win total. As of right now, just to not sit on the fence here, as of right now, I would lean under on Florida State's win total. Hear me clearly. That could change. Our prediction will come out in the summer. But it's almost poetic with how this schedule shakes out with Florida State. Those final two games, or those two of the final three games outside of Florida, with Va Tech and NC State, that'll be a point in the year where your culture is all the way exposed for everyone to see. Because you're beat up, you're tired, probably don't have a fully healthy roster. We will find out what your team is in November. And in November, I think that's going to decide if you can pass that win total. Not saying that Florida State's worried about, winning over under 7.5 games for what it means in Vegas, but I do think finishing the season strong for Florida State will be exposed in those two games. And if you're betting Florida State here in that number, that's going to be what I think it comes down to, because schedule shakes out that way to where I think that'll be right around the spot where you can either pass it or lose it in the NC State and Virginia Tech games. So, again, I think I probably lean under right now. We have folks in this office who definitely lean under right now. But all that's to say, Florida State fans, let me know how you feel about this over-under win total 7.5. I think it's all about getting back neutral in 2025. Don't have to go win the ACC to save, what the future at Florida State is. Show me you can get back to neutral. Go win 7 games, win 8 games. That's great. 2026, we can talk about where you stand in relation to trying to get back to the ACC title aspirations and making the college football playoff here in the future. So, appreciate y'all being subscribed. Appreciate y'all being locked in. Cato on the ones and the twos. For myself, JD Paquel, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We will keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.